James Pligge of Harm's Way. Hey, man, thanks for coming by on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Of course.
So what's going on? I know, like, everybody's stuck inside doing um, the normal things of trying to stay away from other human beings. So, I mean,
Sure.
how's that been going? Do you have a routine that you've been working on just to get yourself busy and everything?
Well, essentially, obviously, since the stay-at-home orders and stuff, when I'm not on tour, I teach school, and that has since been canceled for the rest of the year. So I currently don't have a job. So the routine has been a little bit tough to get used to. But one thing I try to make sure I do every day is work out. I've been learning Spanish, actually, to try and make some good use of my time. And then I've been trying to get some video game action in.
Fuck yeah.
Been playing Borderlands 3 quite often, and NBA 2K20. Those are my two games right now.
So you're a huge basketball fan, so I'm sure you're a Bulls fan then, coming from Chicago.
Yeah.
Did you see the documentary? It's fucking incredible.
Oh yeah, I've been looking forward to that every Sunday. It's nice to have something to kind of, look forward to that you actually want to do. Obviously you can only watch so much Netflix or movies or TV before you get kind of bored with it. So
yeah,
but yeah, other than that, Harm's Way has been writing the new record as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. So if you guys are writing during this process, how do you or when do you think that's gonna possibly be released through Metal Blade Records? Like maybe before the next year?
The setup that we were hoping, obviously virus, restrictions aside, we're hoping to record sometime between October and December, and then have the record out in sometime in springtime 2021. It's kind of the plan we have right now.
Fuck yeah.
But we've been practicing on Zoom. Basically, it's a very interesting process, but basically what we do is we hook up instruments to Ableton, and then we connect the Ableton to Twitch so that we can actually hear the music that's being played back. And Casey, our bass player, he's really good at programming drums. So basically we've been programming songs through Ableton, and some of the drums are obviously placeholders because Chris is going to obviously implement his own styles and, different things with that. But it's been a really good process. It's almost like probably I would say we've been working 20 hours a week almost on working on music. And it's almost, I don't want to say it's better than like actually being there, but there is like less distractions when like all of us are in one place. Nobody is like playing guitar when they're not supposed to, or like, it's the writing process is like very concentrated on, all right, here's a riff. Do we like it? Do we not like it? What types of drums? And then, we've written probably 12 songs that way, since the quarantine. So it's actually been, I think, really productive for us to have this time to really like concentrate on music, even though we can't be together in the physical space. But
yeah, it sounds really efficient.
It's going well.
Yeah, it sounds efficient. And how do you transcend from being a gym teacher to touring in a band for part-time? Like, how does that work with the school that you work with?
So currently I'm just a substitute teacher, actually. So
okay.
I don't have a full-time job, but as a sub, you can sub every day if you want. So I can work 40-hour weeks when I'm home, but I don't necessarily have like a boss I need to say like, hey, I'm leaving for X amount of time. So it's kind of a come and go job, which is nice.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, it's not the best pay, but it's fine as a supplemental income with the band.
Right.
Because the band is the primary focus at this particular time. So
for sure,
whenever that's over, maybe I'll move on to a more permanent teaching career.
I talked about on the podcast recently with one of my label owner, Jeremy Weiss. He was from CI Records. He basically kind of got August Burns Red started, but they we try explaining to people that you should have different types of incomes for if you're trying to do this full time when you're not so out there in the industry. Like if you're still underground in a sense, like bartending is good to flex, or maybe if you're doing some computer programming, editing programs, stuff like shit that fucking puts money in your pocket. And like what you're doing, that's fantastic. You know what I mean? So that way you don't have to worry about coming home like, fuck, what am I gonna do for like the next month to collect some kind of income? Like.
For sure.
Yeah, that's pretty legit. I mean, not to say, there's a huge elephant in the room, but you're fucking in tip-top shape, man. Like you're fucking built, dude, like a brick wall. Like how's your workout routine go when you're on tour? Like because you're going from state to state, and you only basically go into back alleyways or parking lots to actually set up for the show and everything. So how do you maintain that whole idea of keeping in shape while you're on tour? Because it can't be easy.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like time and like kind of setting aside time to go work out, I mean, that is sometimes a challenge. But a few years ago, actually it's more than a few years ago, probably like 7 years ago, we kind of implemented this routine of getting to the show, loading in, sound check if we need to sound check. Usually we have about 2 or 3 hours before doors actually open, so it makes it a lot easier. When you have a little bit of window of time, we usually take Uber or something to YMCAs. And YMCAs, I mean, I've talked about it before. It's just the easiest place to work out as far as the accessibility in each city, because every city has about 4 or 5 YMCAs. And a lot of them are starting to have really nice gyms. So they'll have like deadlift platforms, squat racks. They'll have Olympic weights. So it's like the whole band in the last 3 years, I should say, like we've all kind of made it a point to get to the gym, not every day, but at least 3 or 4 times a week. And it just kind of became a necessity with touring, just because if we're going to be touring for 6 months out of the year, that's just basically your life at that point. So you need to incorporate routines that you have at home in your daily tour schedule. So we've definitely done a good job doing that.
That's tight though, because considering the fact that like when I was on Warped Tour for 2017, we were on for 11 days. I saw guys bring weights, like I saw guys bring racks, and I'm like, well, that is, I guess, the only way you can really do it in this essentially, because we're basically in fucking parking lots all day. So
yeah, for sure.
Were you on the tour all of 2018 for that year?
Were we on Warped Tour or just tour? Yeah, we did not the whole Warped Tour, but I think 30 days, 33 days. And we did the same thing. I mean, Warped Tour is actually, in my opinion, a very ideal touring situation. I mean, you're really only attending to music 30 minutes a day. Well, I guess an hour a day with setup. And the rest of the day is yours. So, I mean, we probably gave Uber $5,000, but like we went, we did stuff. We left. I mean, I didn't spend too much time at the venues because, I mean, obviously we had someone doing merch, so it's not something I really needed to worry about. But, we basically would play, and then in a few hours we all go to the gym, we all get food. And then come back, and then we'd play bags at night, pretty much every night.
Yeah, like at the barbecues or something.
Yeah. That was kind of the routine that we had going. So it was, but I understand. I mean, some people, it's a pain in the ass to leave a location, but Harm's Way always like is kind of just like, all right, let's get out of here. Like we don't mind like making the extra effort to like, go to the gym or go see a movie or do whatever, just because it's better than sitting on a bus when it's 100 degrees out, you know?
Yeah, you don't want to fucking just sit there in your thoughts and like do nothing. You gotta get yourself out there doing something. Like
Yeah,
we
for
would
sure.
always, our bus driver would always take us to a fucking Hooters, or we go see a fucking war movie, like the same one every other day. I was like, okay, cool, man, it's on him. Like that was rest in peace that tour, but that's something that a lot of kids are gonna miss. But I mean, it is what it is. That's actually how I found out about Knock Loose. They were on 2017, so that kind of like opened my eyes. I'm like really late to the hardcore game. Like I'm kind
Yeah,
of
sure.
like in those like ambient or alternative hardcores like Ghost Inside and fucking like punk rock like Every Time I Die. But I heard you guys a couple years ago when I found out Knock Loose because I kept YouTube searching their live sets, and there was the one at the Electric Factory, which
Sure.
I wish I was at. Did they lower that stage on purpose? Because I know it's a little bit higher when
Let's see. So
it was
at that,
interesting.
oh, for the video, like the viral video, you're saying?
Well, that show, yeah, that's how I found out about you guys. So before the video went viral in general, but I'm in Philadelphia, located now, so I'm like right down the street from that venue. So at the Electric, well now it's Franklin Music Hall. It looked like they lowered the stage though. It seemed like they usually have it high. I don't know, but that show looked fucking fantastic. That's how I found out you guys
Yeah,
through
so that's
video.
a festival actually. That particular show was This Is Hardcore Fest.
Yes. Yeah.
I've never played any other show there except This Is Hardcore. We played that like 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually don't know what it looks like without the hardcore festival. So I actually have no idea.
Usually they do it at the Voltage Lounge right down the street for the hardcore shows. I've never really seen, but the numbers probably capped so well that they just put it to the Electric Factory, which is not. It's the Franklin Music Hall. I don't know how I feel about that name. You know when you like see things be like rechanged, they change their names, and you're like, what the fuck? I don't want to call it that. I want to call it the fucking old thing I used to talk, like what it used to be or some shit.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so and like that was actually the show that recently went viral because I like took a step back and I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, I know these guys, and it was just like, oh shit, like people are overdubbing Infestation with a bunch of other songs and stuff, which was fucking to me. I personally, that's good PR. But how do you feel about that? I mean, like it's not stopping. It just keeps going.
I guess what's funny about it is like that happened like 6 months ago. Like the original videos are like 6 months old. So like there was like one with the Office theme song, I think, and the Shania Twain one. Those are like really old.
Oh shit.
So I'm not sure what like sparked people doing it again, but yeah, I mean it's cool. I mean I think it definitely helps as far as like, you know, people finding out about our band or it's just kind of funny that it's kind of embedded in like mainstream meme culture now. But I mean, it's definitely, I would say, I mean, the saying goes, right? Any publicity is good publicity, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
It kind of holds true. I mean, especially, you know, as we talked about, a lot of people are bored at this point. You know, they're stuck being inside, and you know, it's just something to do and something to laugh at, which I'm sure we all need a good laugh at this point.
Yeah, with everything going on. No, I know you're right, but it's I was pretty stoked because of the fact that it is good. It's PR regardless, so I know I don't know what your numbers are on Spotify or whatever, but I'm hoping they're doing pretty well after that viral video. That's fucking sick.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sure there's definitely a bump.
You know what it could have been, dude? Honestly, to think about it, and then we'll get off the topic. But maybe someone did a TikTok of it because these TikToks, like, they just fucking blow up, dude. Like, with anything. So maybe that sparked it. I don't know.
It could have been. Yeah, I honestly have no idea. I mean, like, one day someone sent me one, and I was like, oh, like,
here we go.
I've seen that like 6 months ago, and then like every day people are sending me like, oh, you see this one? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, dude, of course I fucking seen it. Yeah. And they're tagging the band and everything, which is great that I've been seeing, so that's good. So,
and now there's so many that I don't even know how many exist. So.
Nah, fuck it. What's it called? Going back to what you were saying with you guys writing new material. How do you usually find inspiration to put behind your lyrics? Because I know you guys are a straight edge band, which is a cool fucking message to put out there. So like, how do you reminisce in the inspiration to write lyrics, for that specific reason?
I mean, so basically, Harm's Way originated as a straight edge band. Currently, there are a few members that aren't straight edge, but
Mm-hmm.
we've always held the straight edge label just because, the people who originated the band are still straight edge, and I obviously write the lyrics, so still having some straight edge influence is still part of the band, but it's not really like a major part, I would say.
Okay.
I really haven't written a lot of lyrics about that anymore, just because at this point it's just part of my life. It's just like it's not. I don't even think about being straight edge at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something I do. So probably the last song I wrote about that was on Rust.
Okay.
So that's what, 5 years ago. So with Posthuman, you know, obviously with each record, the lyrics kind of relate to like what's going on in my life at the time, or like what's going on mentally. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as I've gotten a little bit older, like straight edge has become less important in the sense of like being outspoken about it, and more so it's just I feel is the best way for me to live. So that's why I continue to, hold that message, but even though I'm not like singing about it all the time, or like we're not creating shirts about it, it's
Mm-hmm.
still important to me, but it's just I don't feel the need to be vocal about it anymore.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah, you're not like constantly bringing it up just to make sure that they understand the message. Um, whereas like you also have other thoughts and reasons to write those lyrics that like you personally said you feel. For example, like I was a huge metalcore fan back in the day, but what really disappointed me was when these fucking bands would come out and they would like force the word of God down your throat. I'm like, listen, man, like we get that you're Christian, but like you gotta fucking chill out. You're boring everybody, or like we just don't. Not everybody's on the same page as you. So, but there's other things to talk about, like anxiety and depression and stuff, and they are in
Sure.
some of your lyrics as well, which is fucking cool, and people can relate to that and take that and be uplifted from it. Like, and you get rid of that anxiety and depression through, I'm sure, your physical education, like and working out and shit. Like, is that how
Mhm.
you try to cope with everything
Yeah, I
personally?
mean, my music, like writing music, being in a band, lifting weights.
Mm-hmm.
I do some martial arts as well. I mean, all those things are really good for you know getting out some anxiety, or you know depression symptoms. But I mean, obviously, those things are things that you're going to deal with, forever. But it's nice to find coping mechanisms. I mean, that's kind of where being straight edge kind of like puts this back to that, because in my opinion that a lot of people use like negative coping mechanisms like drugs, drinking, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
to deal with those feelings, anxiety, depression. Whereas for me, I used music, I used athletics to cope with those things over time, and I think that really helps. And I think the goal is to find positive ways to cope with those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's, to me, that's part of being straight edge as well. So like I want to be able to feel things in life, because that's what life is.
Mm-hmm.
Life is full of ups and downs, sadness, happiness, depression, anxiety. Like you can't ignore those things. I mean, people may think they don't feel those things, from time to time, but everyone experiences them regardless. So I think that's important to feel those things without numbing them with substances and stuff. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why finding the outlets, like I said, has been so important in my life. And that's why I continue to do those things, because they really do help get you in a better mental state. And I think now more than ever is important to talk about those things, because I feel like when you're isolated, unable to socialize, a lot of people use, socialization to cope with depression, anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can't go and hang out with your friends, or you can't go and do activities, you do get very own kind of in your head, because you have a lot of downtime to think about different things. And so I bet you a lot of people are struggling with depression and kind of having some anxieties about the situation that's happening in the world. But it's important to find ways to help deal with those things in a positive way, as opposed to turning to some of the negative things that a lot of people do.
Yeah, too many people don't have that outlet, or they haven't found it yet. I mean, being for one, I can kind of relate with that with you, is because I go ahead and play my fucking drum set. Whether it's like I'm just gonna like write something right there and then, or play a cover that I'm gonna thoroughly enjoy, but like being on that kit fucking makes me feel good. And some people, hopefully they can able to find that outlet to make sure that they don't have to like stay inside their heads to get rid of that anxiety or depression or whatever it is the case may be. And like I have the privilege now during this unfortunate pandemic. Like, listen, like I'm at home, like I'm okay. Some people don't have that. Some people might be struggling with their bills, or their landlord is, if they have a small business, like landlord. Like I keep ordering out because I want these small businesses to thrive, because I know their landlords aren't, holding up their pay. So it's just we're all in this together, and I appreciate you, coming on and talking about it too, because like it's just something that I'd rather say that it's real than try to put it aside and be like nah, and try to ignore it. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather take it on full force. So
yeah.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
What's it called? So, like, dude, trust me, I'm a huge fan of fucking Lamb of God. How was that show that you guys recently played with them? Like, that must have been a sick shit.
Yeah, that was really cool. That was like mid-February. Yeah, I was really, really happy to be able to have the opportunity to play with them. Obviously, growing up, listening to heavier music, Lamb of God was always kind of a band that I think influenced a lot of metalcore in general. Even though they've went above and beyond, hardcore or like the hardcore realm, I think because they started from there to some degree, a lot of people have used kind of their, how do you say it? Like, I don't want to say aesthetic, but kind of like not their, like their riffs are very unique in themselves. And I think they kind of influence just a lot of metalcore around like the mid 2000s. And a lot of bands, obviously, as time goes on, rip off, bands from the 2000s. So
they do, yeah.
They kind of just continue to have an influence on heavier music to a lot of degree. And, I always liked the first couple records quite a bit. So it was really cool to see them play. And the whole like Vans showcase that they do is really cool, because everything was free. And they you get free drinks, free entry. They give you free shirts.
Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah.
And I think it's just a cool way to bring people to a show. It's good exposure for us, and they would obviously gave us an opportunity to play with a cool big metal band that you've kind of seen around mainstream metal for 20 years at this point. So it's pretty cool.
Was that one of your favorite shows? Like, besides some of the others that you've had, or have you had other favorites in general?
Of all time?
Yeah, of all time. Yeah, we could say that, yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
It was just different. Like, I mean, I would say Lamb of God is definitely one of the bigger bands we've had an opportunity to play with. Sure. I mean, the show was definitely cool, but I mean, there's a lot of other memorable shows for different reasons that I would say would go ahead of it,